Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the healing room. We are about to get started any moment now. Just going to give you a few moments to come on in and settle down and relax, get comfortable. Ooh, that's fun. Love that. Have a great topic tonight, and I'm really excited to share this topic with you. My name is Marcia Williams. I am a licensed therapist, and I am also a recovery coach for survivors of narcissistic abuse. And so every Monday, I'm here. I'm here for you, going live. We are going to talk about the questions and answers that most victims, who are no longer victims if you're here, and survivors of narcissistic abuse struggle with day in and day out. So I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. Good to see you guys rolling in. Come in to the healing room, get comfortable. Let's chat. Let's talk about some of the most common questions that come up when dealing with a narcissist and with healing from narcissistic abuse. So you may just now be learning that you are in a relationship with a narcissist. You may be fully aware and are already in the healing journey. Whether you're still in the relationship or not, you are healing. Please know that as long as you are aware, you are healing. And so that's what's important to me, is that I spread positivity, because this is a long journey. And I know this from personal experience. I was married to a narcissist for 30 years. And I have been divorced for a little over 4 years. And I have finally found my peace, finally found my joy, finally reclaimed myself. And it's still a journey. Don't get me wrong. I haven't arrived and yay, I'm there, I'm done. That's why I'm here. I'm here to let you know that even while on the journey, you are still in the process of growth and development and self-love, just reclaiming who you are. Do you ever think back to who you were before you met your narcissist? Even if the narcissist is a parent, a narcissist can come in all shapes, forms, and sizes. We know that. But listen, guys, this is the healing room. This is the healing room. And tonight we're going to talk about a very common question that sometimes we don't even like to say out loud, because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel normal. It makes you feel like you're not healing. When you ask yourself, why do I still miss them at times? Him or her. Why do I still miss them? There are plenty of moments when we are in anger, we are in resentment, we are in fear. But what about the moments when we are in sadness? When we are in complicated grief? And one of my buddies calls it complicated happiness. And I love that too. Love that. Complicated happiness, complicated grief. It's complicated. And what that means is that you are experiencing all of the feelings, but you don't want to experience missing them. You don't necessarily want to experience loving them. Because what? They don't deserve our love. They don't deserve to be missed. Even if after all they've done to us, to you, you may still have moments where you miss them. So that's the question tonight. Why do I still at times miss them? Knowing this is an unhealthy relationship, knowing this is not anything that you want to return to, even though there are probably those weak moments where you do feel that too. But here's the thing, and this is why in all of my practice, in every support group that I facilitate, my coaching clients, my therapy clients, in everything that I do, what we don't do is bash the narcissist. Now, you may be here because you might be in that stage where bashing is okay because they were a son of a gun. They did this, that, and the other, and they did. And they did. But guess what? We loved them first. We fell in love with them first. Self-compassion is knowing and giving ourselves grace because we fell in love with who they presented themselves to be, not who they are. They did not reveal their true selves to us until we were already locked in. So this question that some of you may have, some of you may not be, you may be like, I don't have that question because you are still in a particular stage where that's not where you are, and that's perfectly fine. But for those of you who do have those moments and you're out there, I know you're out there, and I want you to know it's okay to validate even those moments because all of your feelings are valid. Remember, you are missing the promise, not the person. You're missing the idea, not the actual person that was presented to you. And so this is a process of grief that goes along with all the other feelings of the anger and the resentment and the betrayal, and just wondering why me and all of those other questions that we'll talk about in future Mondays. This question is tough because especially if others know, particularly if they were an overt narcissist, that means others know the type of person that they were. And so to then go back and say, I miss that person out loud to anyone is not comfortable. It's not comfortable and it's not safe. Why? Because there's judgment. Why would you miss somebody who treated you that way? Why would you miss somebody who obviously didn't love you? That's what you are potentially up against when you say that out loud. But you're human. And every feeling is valid. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, your brain is addicted to the cycle. Remember, this relationship, a relationship with a narcissist, is like a drug. It is an addiction. So you don't love them. You loved the experience. You loved the highs. You hated the lows, but then you loved the highs again, and then you hated the lows. This creates, listen, it even sounds like an addiction. It even sounds like a drug. This creates your trauma bond. We're describing the trauma bond that is created over time in a relationship with a narcissist. When you go from idealizing because you are feeling the love, you are feeling so good, they feel like a soulmate, they feel like they have just changed your life and you couldn't have met a better person. Well, the hooks are in. So that the second stage, when the devaluing stage comes, you're like, wait, I just experienced my soulmate, so this is probably just blah, 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 blah. Then we go on to justify, rationalize, overlook, give them the benefit of the doubt, and the list goes on because we love the idea. We love the idea of the person. But in this second stage of devaluing, they're showing us who they really are. And they know it's safe to do that because we are hooked. We're hooked emotionally. This is why a narcissist is attracted to our personality type. It's because we are empathetic and we are more likely to give the benefit of the doubt. We are more likely to overlook, to justify, to rationalize. Okay, so the next reason is you were groomed. Listen closely. You were groomed to depend on them. During that idealizing stage, how many of us heard, "Trust me, I'm here for you. I won't ever let anything happen to you," and so on and so on. This is the stage of building that connection, building that trust. We don't know we're being groomed. We don't know that they're mirroring. We don't know that they're love bombing. You could not have possibly have known. Excuse me. I'm allergic to grooming. I actually wrote a book about it. Groomed. I was groomed. In my 30-year marriage to a narcissist, I was groomed. Did not know it. Just fell into the trap because of my vulnerabilities. Don't forget the 50-50 rule. The 50-50 rule is what's your vulnerability. Not only why is the narcissist attracted to you, but what attracted you to the narcissist. That's what your therapist is for. That's what I am for as a therapist and a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. That's our work. Okay? But let's stay focused. Why do I still miss him? That's the topic of today. If you just joined, I'm so glad you're here. Hang around, stick with us. We are talking about the very uncomfortable feeling of missing the narcissist. The relationship may be over. You may be in a discard phase where they've left or you've left, trying to break the trauma bond, and you miss them. You miss them because you're human. You miss them because you fell in love with the idea of them, not with who they are. They're showing you who they are when we are devalued, when we are discarded, with no apology, with no remorse, with no empathy. That's them showing us who they are. And only then, hindsight, only then can we look back and say, okay, so this means I have to acknowledge that all of the love, all of the attention, all of the kindness, all of the affection, was that a lie? Was that a lie? And unfortunately, we have no choice but to come to the conclusion. If someone is capable of treating you in this way, the devaluing stage, name calling, verbal abuse, the gaslighting, the stonewalling, all of those manipulation tactics that we have come to be familiar with, it negates the person that we experienced when we thought we were seeing someone and interacting with someone who loved us. So that is a tough pill to swallow. And it is exactly the journey ahead when it comes to healing from a narcissistic relationship. Okay? So that was number 3. You were groomed to depend on him or her. So they made themselves a source of love, security, and self-worth. And so now it feels like you've just lost it all. Because you actually did feel, here's where grace comes in. Give yourself grace. Give yourself compassion. You did feel loved. You did feel secure. You did feel safe. You did feel worthy because it made you feel special. You weren't lying to yourself. You were deceived. You were deceived. And so this is why it's not your fault. Okay? So also remember that This is why it's complicated grief. You have lost someone, something, a relationship that meant something to you at one point. But now this relationship, this person represents pain and fear and hurt and loss. And so cognitive dissonance. I love this person brought me pain. I love this person devalued me. I love this person, I thought this person loved me, but they didn't, or maybe they did sometime. Confusion? Yeah. Total confusion. Drop a heart in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. If you felt confusion, drop a heart, drop an angry face, drop something. This is what we're dealing with, and we're here to validate each other. That's the other thing about this, is that we need to validate each other's experience. There's not too many friends and family, though they love us dearly, who can truly understand. And you're here tonight because you are looking for that support. You're looking for that validation. You're looking for that community. And you found it. You find it here. You find it on social media. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that, because what we have to do with these thoughts is, number one, validate them because you're human. Number two is to reframe them. Okay, don't just let them live all up in here without any clarification. Meaning the truth, because our thoughts are not facts. Remember that. Our thoughts are not facts. And so because of that, you have an opportunity to reframe those negative thoughts. So validate your feelings. This is the process of rewiring your brain. You're literally teaching, reteaching, deprogramming, reprogramming your brain. Your brain hasn't gotten the memo yet that this is a trauma bond that needs to be broken. Right now, your brain is clinging to what's familiar, to what's comfortable, to what feels good, just like a drug. Just like a drug. Just like a drug. All right, let me get back to number 4. So let me recap for those of you who have just joined. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Just going to do a quick recap. We are talking about the very complicated feeling of missing the narcissist. Let's say you've tried to break up with them, or they broke up with you and left you, or the marriage, you're separated, whatever the case may be. You stop speaking to your parent who might be a narcissist, whatever the case may be. Well, that happened for a reason, but now why do I miss them? I know this relationship is not safe. I know this relationship is not healthy. Why do I miss them after everything that they've done to me, after everything that I've experienced in this relationship? Why do I have moments, particularly at night, probably? Speaking from experience, I've mentioned, for those of you who've just joined, I was married to a narcissist for 30 years, divorced for 4 years. I had been separated for a year prior to the divorce. Very difficult. And I'm fully aware that this relationship is unhealthy. It's unsafe. I'm not happy. But then the opportunity presents itself. I'm free. And I'm like, now what? Now what do I do? It's just me. Some of you might say, and this is me too, I've never lived alone. I've never been single. I don't even know what to do with this new life. What am I supposed to do? Naturally, give yourself grace. Naturally, you miss what is familiar. You miss the familiar, but you miss the idea. So number 1, you miss the promise of the person, not the actual person. That's number one. You miss who they presented themselves to be, not who they actually are. So you're actually grieving an illusion. This is an opportunity for you to reframe. You have to talk back to your brain because it is on autopilot. You have to talk back to your brain and say, hey, wake up. Remember. Fortunately, I have a sister who helps me remember. I used to say when we were separated and I was about to divorce, can you remind me why I'm divorcing? It's been 30 years. Why? I can do another 30 years. I got this all figured out. Can you remind me? And she would say, well, he did this, he said this, you said this, you felt this way, he did this, you experienced this. And I said, okay, thank you, sister. Such a good sister. Not comfortable, but necessary. Because in complicated grief, you will forget. You will forget. Because guess what? It wasn't all bad. And unfortunately, your brain is going to cling to what feels good. Now, depends on what stage you're in. You might hop off saying, that ain't for me. I'm long past that. And that's perfectly fine. But I guarantee you that at some stage in this process of healing, you will experience missing the narcissist. Whether it's a trigger from a song, whether it's passing by the restaurant that you frequented or had your anniversary every year at, or maybe it's some island you just won't go to anymore because that's where y'all went. That is grief. That is grief. And so missing the narcissist is, I want you to know, a natural part of the healing process. So if you just joined, I'm going to recap. Number one, you're missing the promise, not the person. Number two, your brain is addicted to the cycle. It's a cycle. That's what the trauma bond is a cycle of abuse. It is abuse. Experiencing the highs and the lows, it creates an addiction because you keep chasing the high. Sounds like a drug. We keep chasing that high. We keep chasing that good time. We keep remembering that good time. We keep remembering, focusing on the good times. That brings missing them. That brings the sadness, the longing. This is a natural part of complicated grief. So the next one, number three, is you were groomed to depend on them. We got to remember, this is why journaling is important. It is so important to journal because, like I said, the brain is addicted to pleasure. Chemically addicted to pleasure. Journaling helps you remember. Some people, I think Dr. Ramani came up with this, the ick list. My clients talk about it a lot. Make an ick list for the sole purpose of pulling it out when you need a reminder. My sister has my ick list in her brain just on speed dial. All I got to do is say, hey, yep, okay, thanks, got it. Yeah, she's a walking ick list for me. But for you, it may be a person, it may be a journal entry, it may be a voice memo, but part of the grief process requires being intentional about your recovery. Be intentional about your healing. Don't just hope for it. And when is it going to go away? That's another question. How long does it take to heal? All these questions we're going to be talking about every Monday. So I hope you'll just pop in every Monday and see if it's a topic that generates with you. If not, check me out the following Monday. I'll be here because the questions are never ending. And I want you to hear it from me. And I want you to share with each other in the chat. So don't hesitate to drop questions in the chat. Don't hesitate to respond in the chat. Because again, you're here because it's community, it's connection, it's validation. So get what you need. I'm here to answer your questions, and other people are here to relate. I want to make sure this is a safe space. I also have support groups that I run and facilitate through my practice. So you can go to thepassageToPeace.com if you want to take a free quiz on what stage of healing are you in. Maybe you're just now coming to the understanding that you're in a relationship with a narcissist. Find out more, which you're doing because you're here, you're on social media. So question is, how did you survive 30 years? That is a really good question. I ask myself that often. And the answer to that question is living in survival mode. We learn to live in survival mode. So we don't realize we're living in survival mode because it's just our life. This is just our life. But you live in survival mode and something happens at the right time. Everything happens for a reason. Something happens at the right time. And so it's when the veil of denial is removed that we are like, okay, you know what? This has happened 10, 20, 50 times before, but this time is different. Hey, Janine, this time is different. And my eyes are open. But literally for 30 years, my eyes are closed. Why? And this is another good reason for it. I had my own agenda. Remember, y'all, the 50-50 rule. I had my own agenda. I wanted this marriage to work. I wanted to be right in my decision to marry this person. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have children and a family. Everybody else thought he was so cool and and that made me feel special. So what am I dealing with during these 30 years? Not really being in touch with it because he was filling a void for me. Wasn't aware of that. That's what my healing journey was about. What void is this relationship, this marriage, this person filling for me? Hence, our question tonight, why do I miss them even after everything we've been through? They were filling a void of some sort. What was the void for you? Now, someone says, sorry, trying to scroll up and it won't let me. Someone says, I think it's Lynn, how do you forgive yourself and stop blaming yourself? That is so beautiful. That's a great question. And I'm literally going to spend a whole another Monday evening on that topic. How do you forgive yourself and stop blaming yourself? Because the more we learn about narcissistic abuse, the more we understand that it is exactly their goal is to confuse us and is to make us think it's our fault. That is the purpose of manipulation. And the more we understand about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, we have to forgive ourselves just by the sheer fact of the matter is that we have nothing to do with it. We are merely a supply for them. And it's not our fault. It's not our fault. And so forgiving ourselves means literally self-compassion. So I say this to my clients. Of course you miss them. Of course you love them. Of course you feel sad and maybe you feel sorry for them. Of course you blame yourself. It's because we are the empathetic ones in this relationship. So we're going to take it all on. That's what we do. You are likely a caretaker, a people pleaser, codependent. These are our vulnerabilities. This is what the narcissist was attracted to in us. So here's how you forgive yourself. It's not your fault that someone took advantage of your empathy, of your love, of your kindness, of your forgiveness, of all of the wrongs that they had done to you in the relationship. And the way that we stop blaming ourselves is recognizing that we don't have that much power. We don't have that much power. We're giving ourselves too much credit. We're taking responsibility for something that is not ours to take. We can own our part, 50-50 rule. I'm not saying we have no part in it. We can own our part, but that's not in the form of blame. That's in the form of accountability, which is extremely healthy. So when we can separate the two, what's ours versus what's not ours to own. And in a relationship with a narcissist, you were and are the only one taking responsibility. You're the only one holding yourself accountable. And that's what manipulation does, particularly to our personality type. Because of our empathy. Remember, a narcissist lacks empathy. They lack remorse. And they're very good at making us think we are the problem. But we have to recognize that this is manipulation. We're being manipulated. We're being groomed. So that by the time they blame us for everything, it must be true. It must be true. So Janine says the abuse becomes so normal that even after you're gone, it is still easy to be drawn back in. Oh my goodness, absolutely. A close relative of my ex just passed, and I felt so sad and bad for him. I called him to offer comfort. Exactly. Exactly. And she said he would never do that. Empathy. We still have empathy even after everything they've done to us. But listen, you guys, listen when I tell you that it's a beautiful thing, but it's a double-edged sword because we have to protect it. We literally have to protect our empathy from someone who is going to use it against us. And that's what a narcissist does. They use our empathy against us. That is the bottom line. And so even in the death of the relationship, we're still empathetic, like Janine said. But it's beautiful because it's who you are. And healing is about reclaiming who you are. Healing is about self-awareness. So Janine, that's a great example. And I'm just going to add to it that it is perfectly normal to have empathy for them. We just can't share it with them. We absolutely, that's us prioritizing ourselves. We can be who we are, feel all the feelings, but they do not deserve to experience our feelings. They had their chance. They had their chance and it was abused, and we're left feeling damaged. We now have to protect our peace, protect our empathy. And so also the last thing I want you to remember is your body remembers the trauma. So nostalgia and longing, it doesn't necessarily mean love. Think of it as withdrawals. You are in withdrawals from the addiction. The more you relate this to an addiction, the more you are able to recognize the symptoms of withdrawal and call it just that. Call it just that. Even when we remarry, that's a good one. I know so many clients who said, I even believed them after the divorce and remarried them, and then end up divorced again or wishing that they hadn't remarried. You would think that it's an impossible thing to forgive yourself for, but it's not. It's who you are. We hold on to hope. We cling to hope. And like Paul says, they will only exploit our kindness. So reaching out because something bad happened there. I had a client ask me that just the other day. Someone in the family died and they're traveling to go, and I just want to send them a text message to wish them well. And that is where we get drawn back in, because all they see it as is a door that's cracked open. And like Paul said, to find an opportunity to regain control, which ends up being exploiting our kindness, exploiting our love, exploiting our empathy. So Janine said you've been divorced since 2009. You're talking about yourself, I'm assuming, right? You've been divorced since 2009. I've been divorced since 2021, late 20, something of that nature. You guys, here's what I'm going to leave you with. I'm so glad y'all are here. I'm so glad we're talking about this. And here's what I'm leaving you with. When you think about missing them, ask yourself, what is the first memory that comes to mind? Is it love or is it manipulation? So don't just let your brain run amok and say, oh, remember this, and this was so fun, and I felt this. Now that you know what you know, own it. Now that you know what you know, own it. Challenge your thoughts. Don't let them live rent free. Challenge your thoughts, because you are now in control. You are now in control. Do you tend to push any painful truths aside when nostalgia kicks in? So you think about that happy trip and then, oh, this happened, but the rest was so happy. That's the brain that's still addicted to the pleasures, to the love that we have to challenge and say, but don't forget, this happened. That's where the ick list comes into play. All right, so I'm going to leave you with this today. And don't be mad at yourself. And that's what the other person was asking about. How do you forgive yourself? Don't blame yourself. You were tricked, you were manipulated, and your heart, not just a card trick. We're talking about your heart. We're talking about your brain. This is where grace comes in and compassion. Our empathy is deep. It runs deep, so deep that even after the relationship is over, we're wondering why we still miss them. That's how deep it is. It's who we are. Embrace who you are. Embrace everything that's good about you. Reject the person who abused it, exploited it, misused it. That's what we're rejecting, but we're not rejecting who we are. Missing them is a part of detoxing. It's a part of the withdrawal symptoms. It is a withdrawal symptom. And so don't try to force it away or be mad at yourself for how you're feeling. Acknowledge how you're feeling. Validate how you're feeling. Remind yourself that you're the healthy one in this relationship. Remind yourself, or after the relationship, remind yourself that every day you are getting stronger mentally, emotionally, verbally, standing up for yourself, speaking up for yourself. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you, Janine, for sharing. I really appreciate that. Tell yourself, I deserve love that doesn't require suffering. That's how you forgive yourself. That was an earlier question. How do you not blame yourself? Because you deserve love without suffering. Also, remember, they didn't love you. This is the biggest one. They didn't love you. They loved what you supplied. You are the supply. Jan said it. Love yourself. They loved what you gave. They loved how you served them in whatever form or fashion. They did not love you, the person. Now, they will call it love, and at one point it felt like love. That's fine. That's fine. We're also struggling with holding on to hope. But that is also a detox symptom. That is a part of the withdrawal process, is letting go of hope. All right, so listen, as we end, you don't miss them, you miss who you were. Listen to this. You don't miss them, you miss who you were before they broke you. Now, who deserves forgiveness? You do. You were broken by this relationship, a part of you, a piece of you, a whole of you, broken. You miss who you used to be. And if you don't remember, find out. Ask somebody. Ask somebody who knew you when. When I would ask, I actually do interviews on YouTube. You can see some interviews from that I interviewed friends and family. I want to give everybody a voice. When I ask them, they say, oh, you were this, you were that, you were outgoing, you were this and that. And things change in a relationship with a narcissist because we submit, we morph in who they want us to be, so much so that we forget who we were before them, especially if it was long term. I met my narcissist when I was 17. Hard to remember. Ask somebody who knew you well. Ask somebody. Andrea, I was literally thinking of today. Good. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. So listen, the good news is you are getting yourself back. Every time you do something like this, you are feeding yourself. You are loving yourself. Don't be mad at yourself. Embrace every part of yourself because it's not your fault. It's not even about you. And that can be hard to accept too. It's not even about you. It's about what you supplied. And notice when you remove that supply, or when that supply is the receiving supply is transferred to someone else, it becomes more apparent, which that's where the feeling of betrayal and being discarded is very difficult. But I can tell you it's the best case scenario. Being discarded is the best case scenario. It may be in hindsight that you recognize that, but it is the best case scenario. But either way, today you are in control. Tell yourself that. Today, I am in control, and embrace every part of you and allow the detox process. Every withdrawal symptom that you experience is a part of the healing journey. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to being here every Monday night. Again, if you want to learn more about me or the services that I live my life to serve you. I'm only here because of you, and I'm actually thankful for 30 years. When someone asked me, how did you make it 30 years? I think I made it just so that I could be right here. And trust me, it's not what I asked for. I asked for the exact opposite: change my marriage, fix my marriage, heal my marriage, so on and so on. But I was praying for the wrong thing. When I focused on me, I end up in the happiest place I could possibly be. I end up in the happiest place I can possibly be. Someone said this, and I'll never forget it, and then I'll let y'all go. Who would have thought? They said, no one could possibly have told me that the best thing that could have happened to me was me. Love that. And somebody said self-love. When you talk about self-love, when you think finding yourself is the best thing that ever happened to you, beautiful. All right. Thank you, everyone. If you have a question you want me to answer, DM me, drop it in the chats. I am happy to bring it to the floor. Let's have a discussion. We're going to grow every week. I just started this a few weeks ago. So every week I'm encouraging more and more people to come. But I'm so glad you're here, and I hope to see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.